I want to give you my take on some of President Obama's top 10 items. These are things he's thankful for. These are things that were amazing that happened in his view in 2015 that fill him with optimism. Hey, I'm all for being filled with optimism because of my faith in God and his work in this world. And I believe there are a lot of great things about our country, but I do not share the president's perspective on his top 10 list. In particular, a few items. Let's listen to some of his items, and I'll tell you why I am not as excited as he is. Number 1, which is on his list. Number 6 on his list.
Number 6, preventing the spread of nuclear weapons. We succeeded in forging a strong deal to stop Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. In fact, Iran has already dismantled thousands of centrifuges that enrich uranium.
You got to be kidding me. Yeah. Donald Trump's absolutely right on this. This is one of the worst deals we ever could have made, and basically gives Iran a path to a nuclear weapon in a number of years from now, and has it set up that we can't even just come in and test when we want to test it. What was it? Almost a month's notice before we're going to come in and examine and see what they're actually doing and check on things. There is a reason that Prime Minister Netanyahu so strenuously voted against this or argued against this and lobbied against it, and so many others lobbied against it, and why men like Senator Cruz said if he was elected first day, he'd tear the agreement up. Come on. And what does Iran get from America? Something like $150 billion in aid, out of which they said, you better believe some of it's going to go right to the old causes, which means to support terrorism. Bad. That's one of the worst examples you could have given. All right, next one. This is number 5 on his list. By the way, they were in no particular order, just his countdown. This is number 5 on the president's top 10 list.
Number 5, standing strong against terrorism. Even as we continue to grieve over the attack in San Bernardino, we are leading a global coalition and hitting ISIL harder than ever. In Syria and Iraq, ISIL is losing territory, and we're not going to stop until we destroy this terrorist organization.
Hang on. With all respect, Mr. President, you're unwilling to name who we're attacking. Oh, you'll talk about ISIL, but we are at war not just with terrorism, but with Islamic terrorism. And unless we cut off the head of the ideology, so to say, unless we address the ideology, unless we focus on the false teachings and what's recruiting people and how this is a genuine expression of Islam, we will not be able to defeat it. And ISIS thus far has laughed at a lot of our efforts, and we understand that to really be effective, there's going to have to some strong coalition of ground troops, ours, other allied nations, or at least the Muslim world. The battle's not going to be won. We could have snuffed them out a long time ago. With all respect, sir, it was immediately after you said that ISIS was under control that San Bernardino happened right after that with ISIS sympathizers. No, we have not confronted things strongly, especially because you haven't confronted them by name. And then last, third on my list of what I'm singling out, but number 2 on the president's list, this is one of the major events that give him great optimism and faith, a Christmas miracle for the president as we go into 2016. Here's what he said.
Number 2, love one. No matter who you are here in America, you're free to marry the person you love, because the freedom to marry is now the law in all 50 states.
Love one. Tell it to the polygamist, tell it to the polyamorous, tell it to every other group that wants to have every type of marriage relationship. You now have the right to, quote, marry the person you love. Can you marry the persons you love? Why not? Why does it even have to be limited to a person? You say, okay, that's crazy. Hey, listen, once you redefine marriage, you render it meaningless. Once you use these meaningless phrases like love one, or I have the right to marry the one I love, or equality for all, then that opens the door for everybody. If it's just a matter of who you love, then theoretically you could marry anybody or any combination of groups, and as long as there's age consent, any combination of age consensual relationships. What's the point? The government's got no business getting involved in your love life unless you're breaking the law in some type of abusive way. Otherwise, if a guy's living with a woman, the government's not going to say you can't do that. He could actually live with two women, and the government's not going to tell him he can't do that. If you want to date somebody, you can date who you want to date, unless you're breaking a law. The government's not going to tell you who you can date and can't date. Why? Because it's got nothing to do with that. The only reason the government gets involved with the issue of marriage is because marriage conveys benefits on society. Therefore, society conveys benefits on marriage. And most fundamentally, marriage by natural procreation brings the next generation into the world and joins that generation to the mother and father, something which same-sex relationships fundamentally cannot do. So have the relationships you want. Go to your local church or synagogue and have whatever blessing ceremony you want. But it is a ridiculous decision, an unconstitutional decision, a reckless, lawless decision that the Supreme Court made. It had nothing to do with love winning. It had to do with sexual anarchy and marriage anarchy winning. Mr. President, what you're rejoicing over, I am grieving over. All the more reason that I pray for you. And I pray that God would get hold of your heart, that the final months that you have as president would be months marked by righteousness, love for God, national reformation. Hey, I can dream, can I?